Hello everyone, welcome to today's webcast titled 3 Steps to Data-Driven Retailing, Make It Visual, Actionable, and Easy. I'm Jen Bichond from Tableau Software, and so thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning. Before we get started, I have to cover the boring stuff with you, so just some quick housekeeping items. The first thing to note is this session will be recorded, and we'll provide it to you via email afterwards. You can watch it again at your convenience if you can't stay the entire time, or share it with colleagues. If you have any technical or content-related questions throughout the webinar, please use the chat box. I'll be monitoring that throughout, and I'll address any technical issues with you real time, and then we'll save your questions about the content for the Q&A session at the end. And last but not least, if you use Twitter, you can use the hashtag Tableau to share your comments throughout the presentation and continue the conversation afterwards. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome my colleague Ben Tebbs, who will be introducing some trends in the retail industry and also our guest speakers today from Real World Retail. So Ben, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Jen, and good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. So what I'm going to do is to give you a brief introduction to Tableau software and then talk a little bit about the impact that Tableau is having in the retail sector, which I hope will be of interest to you. And then I'm going to hand over to our partners, Real World Retail, to give you a flavor of the work that they've done in using Tableau to drive this data-driven retail experience. So Tableau, in a nutshell, helps people to see and understand data. What Tableau is doing, and the mission that we're on, is to put that data into the hands of people who have questions, so that they, with just a few mouse clicks, can easily and quickly connect to relevant data of any kind, and then visually explore that data by continuously iterating on the underlying data to get visualizations to gain deeper understanding. What Tableau does is allow people to think visually and to follow their natural train of thought to gain insights and unlock the value of their existing investments. What Tableau is addressing is the removal of obstacles presented by the old school BI way of doing things. So what we are challenging and fixing is the complex, slow, and cumbersome nature of conventional BI, and that means that we are fast and we are agile and we give people the self-reliance that they need. So we're moving away from that paradigm of time-intensive access to data that you need and resource-intensive IT-driven report requests. Tableau actually changes the game in terms of being easy to use and designed for the business user rather than for IT. And we are changing the game in the sense that we are looking to remove barriers from interaction and data exploration and discovery. So people buy Tableau because typically we are 10 to 100 times faster in terms of being able to connect, access, visualize, share, and use data. So we actually free up IT resource to focus on strategic efforts rather than tactical report requests. And ultimately, we believe in a self-reliant experience such that business people can have self-sufficiency and connect to the data that they need to do their jobs and make those decisions in whichever walk of life they are. If we move to retail specifically, then Tableau has some excellent retail customers and marquee names on its roster, if you will. So we have customers like Tesco, dunnhumby, eBay, SuperValu. So there are some grocers there in our world, and also some apparel retailers such as New Look in the UK. And I'd like to use some of Terry Lay's words to describe why Tableau is pertinent and relevant in the retail world. Because what Terry Lay says is that brands are ubiquitous, but under the control of retailers, if they can learn to use the data in their businesses to give customers what they want, then those retailers will prosper. So he says that you must engage individual customers to find out how data can be useful to you through them. And the way to achieve that really is through data. And for the consumer, online and offline is becoming invisible. What Tableau does is to deliver a data-driven experience. And what we're seeing is that data-driven retail has the potential to transform the high street. And I think that is what we're seeing in the retail sector today. If you think back to the original club cards and the partnerships that Tesco had with dunnhumby, which it later acquired, that was an example of big data before we called it that, managing the customer relationship. And data led that company to move into convenience and also took it online and led it to change the business. So customer really drives the supply chain, and some of the stuff that John and Connell are going to share is really about how the customer can drive the supply chain using Tableau, accessing data from wherever it resides, and transforming their businesses by transforming the customer experience. Because we all know that there's no shortage of data. It's really typically the fact that that data is in the wrong place and inaccessible to those people that drive the business. And those people could be category managers, merchandisers, those kind of individuals who make business-changing decisions every day. Those decisions are taken at the heart of the retail business, and often the most powerful in the organization can be the least informed. And what Terry Lay had to say, which I found interesting, which kind of dovetails with Tableau's strategy and approach in retail, is that we can help to push that data right into the parts of the organization where it needs to be. So now is the time to invest in data and keep that data flowing through easy access and a visualization and discovery tool like Tableau. And I'm going to hand on now to John, who's going to give you a flavor of how Tableau can be used in a very specific retail environment to drive a supply chain and retailing experience. So over to you, John, and I shall be back shortly. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Hogan. I'm joined here by my colleague, Connell. I'm just about to share my desktop with you. Okay, so this morning we're going to talk about how a retailer can become a data-driven retailer. And we're going to use the example this morning of Pamela Scott, who's a nationwide fashion retailer here in Ireland. And we have a decision support system that's built on Tableau. So you can see what an finished Tableau product looks like. And like the 3 steps to becoming successful at data-driven retailing is you've got to make it visual because they have a lot of bases to cover. You've got to make it actionable, so you've got to hide the data until it's needed. And the third thing is you've got to make it easy because everybody has to use the data. It's not just the data analyst. Okay? So just a very quick introduction. Connell works in business development, sales and marketing here at Real World Retail. And basically I work on the product development. My experience is I've got 25 years of retail experience in the UK and Ireland, and every part of the retail discipline I've worked in. Okay, so if we take a high-level view, to be successful at retail, you've got about 30 different things you have to be really good at or on top of. And what we do with our decision support system is we put everything important at the fingertips of the retailer in an easy, visual and actionable way. Like previously, if you were good at 8 or 10 things, you probably had a very good business. But nowadays, you really need to be good at everything in order to maximize what the business is. So if we look, say, from a trading point of view, we need to know what the trading insights are week by week. We need to track our variances. We need to see our promotions are working. We need to see how our seasons are winding down. We need to have our replenishment in order. Look at our best and worst sellers. We might need to do transfers. From a range control point of view, we have to be on top of range planning. We have to negotiate with our suppliers. We need to know the colours. We need to work out what sizes we need, what price points work, what's the market research say. What's our open to buys looking like? We want to make sure we have sufficient stock, not too much. And what's our markdowns looking like? What can we learn from them? From a store development point of view, we need to know our productivity of our space and store grading. We need basket analysis to tell us what we should situate beside each other, and also maybe what to promote. How good are the staff at upselling, and basically how productive are they in terms of the hours they work. From a customer engagement point of view, we need to segment our loyalty customers so we can have a personal relationship. We also need to understand what's driving our web store, and also what social insights are telling us. From another point of view, we've got fraud detection, we've got shrinkage, And then as Ben was saying earlier, then we need to be able to find out extra things ourselves on the back of being able to access the data directly. So how does it work? Like most retailers typically will have a point of sale system, and then perhaps like a head office system, merchandise planning system, or ERP or whatever, but frequently find they do a lot of their work on spreadsheets as well. So we pull all three of those then. We take the data from wherever it is, and we pull it into like our cloud server. Then we process all the records using like Tableau Business Intelligence. And what we find works best is if we present it first as a visual, and that visual gives us an insight into a particular area. It tells us strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, all under one picture. And then arising out of that, then basically there will be action to take. So then we could provide you with the bit of detail you need to take that action. And interestingly, I would say we spend more time hiding information than showing information, because you have to get around those 30 things. So this morning we're talking about Pamela Scott, nationwide fashion retailer, focused on ABC1 retailers, 35 years plus. Many of you will be familiar with the story in Ireland. It's like austerity. Fashion spending has been cut dramatically. Everybody has to reinvent themselves to adapt and survive. And now really you have to be good at the 30 things. 8 or 10 things isn't good enough. Okay, so we're going to go through how Pamela Scott converted from a regular retailer to a data-driven retailer. And so the question is, well, did it work, right? So why should you listen? So achieved to date, double-digit sales growth, suppliers sharing risk to lower the markdowns. So suppliers can't hide from the retailer's information. The retailers have the information at their fingertips. Suppliers can't hide anymore. And they've also reduced their stock holding by €1 million. So how did this come about? It was by becoming a data-driven company, and they have everything at their fingertips, visual, actionable, and easy. Okay, so how did it start? It started when they started doing market research, and this was a snapshot of what the customers said when they conducted the market research. So it was like good was the overall, and expensive. Now this was interpreted as reassuringly expensive, but when we looked at the data told us a different story. Like what we found was the periods of time that we were performing like least was when we were in full price selling, where there was promotions on offer or sale on offer, then the company performed well. So then that was like the first like solid indication that expensive means there isn't enough people to buy it. Also, from a store grading point of view, if we look at the fast fashion here, which tends to be a lower price point, 12% of the space, 22% of the margin. Again, this was another strong indicator that this is where the action was, and not so much on the higher value stuff. Also, when we looked at the basket analysis, over here we've got the high-end label, and like what does it interact with? And we can see like it interacts with first own label 1 and own label 2. So that means that they might be buying an expensive jacket, but really they were buying a known brand trousers or skirt or whatever to go with it. They didn't have money to do the whole outfit. So as a result of this like basic level of data discovery, like they made strategic decisions to offer more value to their customer, clearly segment the store ranges into customer profiles, use best merchandise planning practices, holding back more open to buy, like previously they didn't have an open to buy tool, and also launch a loyalty card. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at a similar system on Tableau server. So like this is like very similar to the system that they are using. So on our screen here, this is like Tableau server. like all of the workbooks that are created on Tableau Desktop are published up here, and then everybody can have a look at them. So here we got like 34 modules, and then like there's extra actions being driven out of those, giving us 117 views. So then we have, in terms of menus, like weekly trading and financials, stock holding replenishment, range planning and open to buy, store development, resourcing productivity, loyalty and customer acquisition, finance and security, and data self-service. So those 30 things that I was talking about are all in here, okay? So we'll have a look at a few. So the first thing is like visual and easy, right? So today is Friday, so are we having a good week? So yes, like we are up 9.4% on last week, and we had a great day yesterday. We had a poor day on Tuesday, and so the colours here are the comparison to the same day of the same week last year, and each of these are stores. So we can see who's having a good week, who's having a bad week. So in about 10 or 20 seconds, we can see what's happening. We can ring the stores, congratulate them. We can ring them to hustle them. We can also see it by department, so we can ask the buyers the relevant questions. Okay? So, like, really easy. We can see our margin building up. We can see our sales by day for last year. The next thing we're going to go to is, like, say it's a Monday morning. So how did we do last week? Okay. So normally in a retail setting, we'd have to wait for somebody to produce reports for us. They would need to be validated. Then we get our report. Then there might be further questions, but then we have to wait like a further period of time in order to maybe find out the answers. So very simply, as you can see, once you click into something, you get a picture. There's no parameters to type in. You'll get a result. So here's our sales for last week by department versus budget versus last year and our margin. Okay, so that's like a decent bunch of numbers. But over here, you'll see all that much quicker on the visual. So we can see we're up 50,000 last week on last year and a bit more on budget. The bullet is the budget. And we can see really it was fast fashion collections there that's like driven the bulk of it. So why was that? So let's have a look at what categories were. And we can see it's up on jackets and it's up on tops, right? We could also look into like which products were up or down, and we only show the ones that are up or down by a certain amount because like we found that, you know, if you're looking at more than a page, nobody's interested. So everything like is really like filtered down to what's important. Okay, so that's like trading insights, really easy. You can see in 10 minutes what happened last week. Okay, we're going to touch now on range planning. So the first issue we would find is like people don't necessarily do their range plans, like, you know, they drift, and then that causes a problem. We end up with too many mark plans. So what we've done is we've set up a merchandise calendar in Excel. We've pulled the Excel sheet into here. And so then that means in February we're doing a merchandise calendar for high-end label 1, right? But as I was saying, sometimes people are slow to do them. So what we've done here is we've put in next to it the markdowns for the last 6 months. So now we have 222,000 reasons for doing this range plan. Okay, so next thing then, let's get into the range plan. So we can see here by merchandise planners and buyers do like detail. So what we've done is we've shown like our full price sell-through, full price margin, units sold, markdowns, margin, and look, we've still stock left. And because we've still stock left, we really don't know what our true margin yet is. So what we do is we predict it. So, like, rather than a buyer talking to a supplier about a 44% margin, they're talking about a 42% margin. And, like, this has been hugely effective because now suppliers can't escape from the information, and they're actually having to work in partnership with the retailer. Also, we can see here we've got red and green. So anything under 40%, which is configurable, margin is in red. So straight away you're getting a signal. Okay, so then we might want to go in into say a department, and we can see it by supplier, hidden the names there. So we can see who's been a good and a bad supplier. We can also then go in and see it by month, and we'll see our sales now for each style name, for each colour, what we've sold in units for each month, and then basically it switches to red once it drops below 40% margin. So you can see what your full price sales are, and rather than all sales. And without that colour, like a mistake buyers will frequently make is they may buy into last year's markdown. Okay. Next place we're going to look at is the open to buy. The open to buy is like the main tool for controlling your stock holding. And like one of the biggest issues on like retailers is like that damages profits is like a overbuying. So what we're doing is like open to buy normally is very numerical, and basically you need to have like a really high boredom threshold to spend time in there. So again, what we've done is we've converted it into a picture. So we can see for each department, these are all the future months. We can see red means we're overbought, and green means we have money to spend, right? So okay, here's specialist 1. So like we're well overstocked on there, so what's going on? So let's go in and have a look at the detail. So this is what's on order. This is what we're going to sell based on budgets. So this is our forecast. This is how much week stock we want to carry. And then this is a dynamic stock. It'll add up the next 12 week sales. So like it knows when Christmas is coming, it knows when the season will end. So then the difference between the forecast and the budget is our open to buy. So we're overspent here by like 150,000 typically. So the next thing is like, what are we going to do about it? So, well, we could have a look at the orders for the month, and maybe we can cancel those. We can have a look at the slow sellers, and maybe we need to do a promotion on those. So when we look at the slow sellers here, I said, look, just show us ones over 1,000, so we've got a shorter list. So we could go 500, and we get a longer list. But all the time, we can just make decisions immediately and take action. Okay, well then the other question could be, well, what season stock is it? And so when we look in here now, we can see, well, it is spring, summer 14 mostly, and but there is a bit of autumn, winter 13. And where is the stock? Is it in the warehouse or in the stores? Blue is stores, orange is warehouse. So like in that, literally in that 2 minutes there, we've learned like a huge amount about like that open to buy, and that would have taken probably hours to work out in a normal course of events. Okay, so at this time of the year, so June, a lot of retailers are worried about, where's their season going to break? Are they going to end up clean? And so let's have a look. So again, we're just trying to make things like really easy and simple, like and hiding the sophistication. So what quantity on hand do we have left for spring, summer 14? So we've got 28,000 pieces. And then, well, what are we going to sell before the end of the season? So to do that, we've compared it to spring, summer 13, and we'll say, let's say we'll sell maybe 5% more this year, right? So now it's taking spring, summer 13, added on 5%, and basically that is what we can sell. And again, we can see what margin we have made. Colours in here is the margin. And then this tells us our terminal stock. So then this tells us how hard or how soft we can go on our markdowns. Okay? So those are like 4 or 5 examples of how Tableau and our decision support system will help retailers to be really good at everything. Okay? Now, there's also, I'll just show you a few more things on PowerPoint. So then there's other things then basically that we use to take corrective action. So like top sellers and new products we look at continuously. We also look at all the top sellers in individual shops that aren't in enough shops to become a top seller overall. So we harvest out the winners out of the individual stores. From a stock holding point of view, we're checking availability and taking corrective action on slow sellers. We also do like transfers. Okay, so take then loyalty segmentation. Like, so here again is like, you know, this picture tells the story in about 10 or 20 seconds. So this is like loyalty participation about 3 weeks after loyalty went live. And so every circle here is a customer. So we can see how much each customer spent and also how many times they come in. So typically they come in between 1 and 6 times in the 3 weeks. So it seems pretty good. And our best customer spent like 1,200 quid. The more interesting thing though is the colours, which are the margin. So we can see like some customers are motivated by discounts, the red ones, and some are motivated by the brands. So then the learning from this was the red customers basically get discount vouchers, and the green customers get invited to brand evenings. Next, we can have a look at the resourcing for the shop. Excuse me. So again, visually we can see this is a evening and weekend store, just by this number of transactions. We can also measure the productivity of the cashiers by pulling in the payroll stuff. So this cashier here, 1.5 items, 9.7 ATV, and they did 2.1 transactions per hour. And down here we can see, look, we've got 2 cashiers that didn't actually work. So there's a security issue. And on the same subject, let's have a look at refunds. Like, refunds are an area that you need to know that you're okay on, but you don't want to spend much time on it. So again, the visual tells the story. So this is a very good example of where you're looking for outliers, and Yvonne here is an outlier. So she has spent like 5 grand on, refunded 5 grand over that period of time. And so then we can drill in and have a look at her refunds. We don't need to have a look at the other refunds. They're all the other cashiers are in the pack. And this was a real live example. She was arrested 2 weeks later, and she admitted to taking £10,000. Okay, so with our decision support built on Tableau, you can be really good at everything.
Yeah, just come in here for a couple of slides, give John a break as Conal Laver here. We don't want to labour the point, but the first thing that we notice when our customers take our system is that they will get a projector, and at their weekly management and monthly management meetings, they'll actually use our system, so they'd be good at these 25 things and get answers there and then. John, during the presentation, just touched on about maybe 10 of these items. There's a lot more that we couldn't show you in the timeline. One of the other things that we didn't show you yet is the CEO dashboard. So from a very high level, you can come into this system whereby you're in your monitoring mode on things that are working, and you're just addressing where the actual problems are. So Pamela Scott's the example that we gave you. These are the kind of results that they got from the system. As John mentioned, they went through a very tough time. They changed their strategy based on their market research, and they implemented fundamental changes within their business, and they became a data-driven retailer, and they actually got these returns. These are real, and our reference sites are very happy to talk to our prospective customers. So just something that might have been missed while we were talking, a typical business intelligence solution is a project. This is not a project at all. The system is built, it's a packaged solution ready to go. You don't have to get consultants to get going. It's literally a few days install. It doesn't tie up your management while going through the process. We've built it. There's just a little bit of time, to do the actual installation itself. And cost, because it's delivered over the web, it's not a CapEx, buying the software, buying all the consulting. It's very low cost in terms of actually working on it. So the return on your investment is very quick. And of course, your risk is also low because you don't have that CapEx. If it doesn't work, you just switch it off. And one thing that we didn't appreciate at the start when we built the system, yes, we knew that we were putting in John's 25 years of retail experience into the system. But what we've actually got as we've developed it with all our various customers is what we call wisdom of the crowd. So one of our customers comes to us with a very good question in retail, and if it's applicable to the rest of our customer base, we actually roll it out So the development rate of the solution is phenomenally fast in getting it to be working for our customers.
Okay, before we hand over to Q&A, what I'd like to do is show you some additional functionality on Tableau with relation to mobile authoring. So like even with our system, like we would say we're delivering in basically maybe 120, 130% of what you think is possible, right? But the reality is everybody knows their own business like better, and every retail business has nuances basically that that are unique to you, and insights that are probably unique to you as well. So what I'd like to do is show you is the self-service part of Tableau. This comes with our system as well, like it's called mobile authoring, and you can do this on your iPad, and you can do it from wherever you are. You could be out in the store and you have an extra question, you can just go in and interrogate the data. So I'll show you how it works. So if we go into a workbook and click on edit, and what this does is exposes all of the data fields, right? So you can see on here, like these are all our data fields, and all the ones with an equals in front of them, they're all calculations. Like in order to make things look easy, there's actually quite a few calculations that needs to be done beforehand. So what I'd like to do here is maybe look at, say, the average like selling, full price selling price, okay? So, like what's the full selling price before markdowns for each store, for each department? So, so we'll just click there we want to look at the average. Okay. I don't need to see like for likes for this. And so the full price selling price is 64, but then like is higher there in Edinburgh. Okay. Well, presumably that is something to do with what departments they sell. So maybe we'll switch the store to the department. Okay. Now, I wonder how that changes over time. So let's maybe have a look at, say, the seasons. Okay, so we'll switch that to season. Sorry. Okay. I think we'll just look at one particular department as well. So if we go, say, to, so I've just put it into filter, and we're just going to look at high-end label 1. Okay. So we can see here, first thing I'm looking at, these are all the autumn-winter seasons. These, like, average selling prices are higher than the summer seasons. Okay. So how much higher? And is that something that's meant to be, I wonder? So there the average for autumn is 104. So here now I'm just grouping these. And the average for a season, spring, summer, is 96, right? So like this is information that's interesting to a merchandise planner. So really anything that you can see over here, you can like drop it over here, and you can explore it like to your heart's content in the same way as like a bit of a similar fashion to an Excel pivot table, except you've got all of the live data here at your fingertips, right? I'm going to do something now maybe a bit more visual, right? I wonder, like, say, what stock have I got in my warehouse, right? So down here we have warehouse stock cost. Put this in here, and again I want to know that by season. Okay. I also want to, okay, I can see here now, like I've got lots of numbers there, right? So, but really, like visualizations will do the job much better. So when you're looking for the proportion of things, I find like the tree map works very well, right? So this here is where the stock had cost for each season. So autumn winter 13 has the highest value. But really I'd like to know like how many units is that though as well. So if we go down here, warehouse cost stock on hand, I can drop this into label. And now it's telling me I've got 4,400 units. So here you can see, like in pretty much, 10 seconds, where your stock is and whether there's stuff of concern in there to you, right? And maybe just while we're on the subject of visualizations, like what we said at the start was it had to be visual, actionable, and easy. So like what we learned was when we originally did reports with numbers, what we found was people didn't use the reports. Once we converted them to pictures, we got much greater penetration of usability, and that's how they were able to get around the 30 things. So I'd just like to have a chat really about what visuals to use and when. So the text tables are very good when you for actionable items. So when you do have to provide the detail, like people do need detail, but basically only give them the bits that they need. Then on the heat map, these are very good where you've got like large tables of data, and you just need a little bit more of a perspective on it. The highlight tables are very good. I might just show you an example of one of them. Say on our top sellers, we would use that. So company top sellers by store, right? So the main thing is with top sellers is you've got enough stock of them, right? And they have a decent display. So the question is, do we have enough stock? So what we've done here, this is like a highlight table, is the color in the background is the stock on hand. So we can see at a glance, like who's in stock and who's running out of stock. Okay. Then maps, are really good. Pie charts, we rarely use, I have to say. What I would find is that these guys here, the bar charts actually present the picture much clearer. The other ones we use quite a bit are the area charts, where we're tracking one season against another. Then the scatter plots we use where we're looking for outliers, just like the refunds. The box and whiskers we would use for frequency of loyalty customers, things like that. They do a really good job on that. The bullet graph we would use for financial information versus this week versus last year versus budget, and that puts all that in. And generally those are the types of visuals we use. So what I'd like to do now maybe is hand back to Ben and Jen, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, that was great, John. Thank you so much to you and Connell for sharing all of those amazing dashboards, and I enjoyed the live demo, so I hope that was helpful to everyone who's viewing today. At this time, I just want to remind everyone that we'll take your questions in the chat box. So if you haven't already typed a question in there, please go ahead and do that. If you were a bit late to join, I also want to remind you that we will share this recording and the slides from today's webinar via email, most likely early next week. And feel free to tweet as well using the hashtag Tableau. But at this point, I will go ahead and check to see if we have any questions, and I'll turn it over to Ben for any additional comments he might want to add.
Yeah, so in advance of just gathering some questions, it really would be great to get questions from people. This is the most stimulating piece, is from what you've seen and heard in the last 40 minutes, please filter that through your business imperatives and ask us some questions here and now. As an aside to that, I think both John and Connell's organization, Real World Retail, have some excellent resources on their web space, as does Tableau Software. For example, there is a retail-specific page on the Tableau software website, as you'd expect. And just one example of that would be a fairly household name, I think, Barnes & Noble. So we have the VP of Retention and Loyalty from Barnes & Noble, who has delivered a webinar which you can download and view live online if you wish. And this discusses how he leverages big data to improve operations and to reduce analytical time from weeks down to hours, which, as you've heard, is one of the consistent themes of Tableau. And Barnes & Noble are monitoring every product line in every store in real time using Tableau as the analytics and discovery piece in there. So that's just an example of the rich kind of retail-related content that we have on TableauSoftware.com. And also I'd refer you to Real World Retail's web space to have a review of how they've approached this in the manner which you've just seen. So hopefully we've gathered some questions, and we're ready to take those. Jen, if you can just mediate those through, please.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. All right, so our first question from Chris. Do you find, this could be for both of you, do you find that your clients engage with tables of data or more with visuals that promote drill-through investigation?
John here, I'll answer this one because, like, I'm an accountant and I can handle mountains of numbers, and, like, I have a really high boredom threshold. And, like, on my first Tableau demo, when, like, Tableau partners came in, I was quite dismissive about the visuals. And I thought basically that they were just like something, you know, like fancy or whatever. And really, like, it took me about like a year to realize the visuals actually are the key. Because, like, you know, if you want people to work on 10 things and you hand them 10 reports, like basically the first, like 5 of them are going to get put to one side. Whereas, like, once you show them a visual, and if it's a good visual, like, curiosity takes over, and then basically they have an action to come out of it, and basically then they will do something about it. So, like, we originally, like, would have done it the first way, and then we found, like, it wasn't very effective, but once we converted everything into visuals, we find it's completely transformational for retailers.
Yeah, thanks, John. Our next question would be, can you touch on market basket analysis, including similar product recommendations, customer segmentation, and classification, and any experience you have performing that type of analysis?
Okay, John here again. The first thing I would say is you need to have a lot of volume to, like, we use basket analysis for, we do it at departmental level or brand level to see what, like, brands or departments should sit beside each other, like in terms of shop layout. Then we use it at product level in order to work out which products we promote with each other, which one product will drive the sales of another. But you do need quite a lot of volume to get meaningful information out of it. And if it's a low volume, like, it's not really high on our priority because the significance of it is less. But if you're like a high volume retailer, then I think the benefit is huge.
Customer segmentation.
Okay, then in terms of customer segmentation, like a lot of the loyalty companies will do their own segmentation, but what we find, like, our system in Tableau, like, performs really well is in the visualization and the data exploration, because, like, again, you're back to the problem of too much information. Like, with all the transactional systems, there's too much information, so you don't get to see the nuggets of information, basically. And once you're exploring with Tableau or Real World Retail, like, you will find the nuggets, and it just, like, keeps everything important in perspective.
Does that answer that question? Was there another part?
I think we've covered most of it there. The next one would be, so retailers obviously have a huge mix of data. So how are you seeing, and maybe Ben, you can take this one first, how are you seeing people use data visualization to aggregate all of those different data sources, and how are they making that work?
So the question was, how am I seeing retail customers aggregate data sources to deliver the kind of experience that we've looked at this morning? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So data from various different platforms How are they mixing and
Yeah.
mashing up that data?
I understand. Okay, so one of the things that Tableau does very well is give you fairly ubiquitous access to data. So there's a kind of semi-technical answer to that question, which is that with Tableau, we give you the choice to use any of 30-something, between 35 and 40 optimized direct database connections that we have, ranging from Excel through SQL Server, Greenplum, Oracle, SAP HANA, SAP PW, those kind of data sources. So you have the option to connect direct through one of those optimized data connections using Tableau, or you can bring data in memory, or both. So we give you the option there. So I would say that typically a large retail customer is going to have silos of data, islands of data that could be in Excel, Access, SQL Server, Oracle. You may well have, a highly performant, high-speed enterprise data warehouse, which again is ideal for Tableau. For example, the Teradata data warehouse, the Tableau really sings on top of that particular application. So in terms of data access and ubiquity, Tableau gives you the option to connect direct or bring bring data in memory if you have a slow or unreliable data source. And I think that gives you a kind of, a fully in-the-round experience where you can choose to do either or both. So I think Tableau gives you, a really good platform for accessing data wherever it resides in your business. And I think the reality is that we enable people to get up and running very, very quickly. It really isn't a heavy-duty consulting engagement to be able to get business users connected to data. And they really don't need to know anything about that connectivity or how the Teradata or Oracle or SAP infrastructure is organized and graded. They're just business users who need to make decisions. They need to connect to data because that's the lifeblood, the DNA of the retailer. And we make that simple and straightforward whilst having a full-on enterprise, secure and scalable application under the bonnet, so to speak. So that's what I would say to that question.
Thanks, Ben. Anything to add to that, John or Connell?
Yeah, what I would say is like Tableau is extremely flexible when it comes. You can connect to pretty much anything and quickly. And some retailers, we normally deal with tier 2 and 3 retailers, and very often they feel the solution is they have to get an ERP system to pull everything together. And really you don't. A Tableau will pull everything together, and a tier 3 retailer might only be dealing with a couple of million records, and Tableau would slice and dice that in no time.
Okay, great. Just a couple more here. So John, you demoed the solution on mobile, how people might edit their dashboards on the go. How are you seeing that in practice? Are you seeing retail clients embracing mobile?
Yeah, what we would see is where they take some of the dashboards we showed you there. Basically, they might have an extra question beyond where we have shown, and then they'll click on edit, and then they'll add, say, they might want to see customer or department. So generally, we would see them adding an extra field then to answer a question on the fly. Generally, that's what we would find that they're doing. And then some of the other guys then basically would be doing it as a precursor to building having a proper module dashboard built.
In practice, how we see that, I mentioned that it's a transformational way people start to use the tool. They use it in their weekly and their monthly meeting. And if you look at the old way, people went to meetings with their printed reports and so on, reported on each of their area. But if a question came up, they typically couldn't answer it there and then. With the screen and everybody looking around the same screen, they'll do the deep dive, and if they have an extra question, as John said, they'll just use the mobile authoring and get the answer there and then. And most significantly, they then act on it, in that week. They don't wait till next week, or maybe never do it because by next week. When next week comes around, there's another problem that jumps ahead of the queue as such, and that gets left behind. And that's what really leads to only being able to be good at 5, 10 things and not being able to be good at the 30 things.
Yeah, I think that segues well into the next question. So thank you for your insights on that one. The next question up is, what have you found more effective, drawing attention to key insights beforehand, or allowing the user to discover these themselves by letting visualizations speak for themselves?
John here. I suppose we've got an advantage here because, like, what we do is it's back to what Colin was saying about the wisdom of the crowds, and we do a lot of work in pharmacy, and we've got a lot of customers on the same server, so one customer might ask a question that actually results in huge insights for everybody, and so then we roll that out to everybody. So what we would find is that each customer is good at particular things, and basically people are generally not good at everything. So if you can combine the best of everybody and put it into one place, it works amazingly well. What we would find is the challenge for retailers is that they've got a day job, and then basically they've got they're doing their exploring as well. And so basically, generally they're focused on where the company is focused on, rather than maybe doing a more general discovery right across the enterprise.
I just interject here. The wisdom of the crowd is shared across areas, those retailers where they do not compete. There are particular areas where they'd be very competitive, and they would build their own systems. For instance, one of the things that our customers have done, they've built their own CEO dashboards. We deliver a default one which will work for most people, but some people will look at different things, and they would see that as a unique kind of competitive advantage that they have, and that wouldn't get shared across different customers.
All right, so on that note, we are almost out of questions. We just have one more, which I think has kind of been the theme of this presentation, is the cultural shift from the old way of doing things in retail as far as accessing and analyzing data, and now the way that you've shown us today through visual analysis and sharing and transparency of all the KPIs that retailers are looking at. So John and Connell and Ben, maybe just one last roundtable to elaborate on a little bit of how you see this cultural shift playing out when you first show people Tableau and real-world retail, and how you see it impacting them.
Sorry, Jen. Yeah, I'll take that one first, and then I'll let John and Connell answer it too. So what I've seen is, yes, and fully understand that there are huge investments in systems, in people, in processes, in data that people need to sustain and get value from. Where we see Tableau really having an impact is in that visual regard, because a picture speaks 1,000 words, and we can very quickly make sense of huge volumes of data without being hugely IT literate. So the business user, as I've said already, could be merchandising, could be category management, could be store owner, could be area manager, associate, franchisee, whatever, can quickly ask their own questions. Now, I think the main difference is that we are not going to prescribe to you, typically, the set of questions that you should be asking of your data. Our view is that you will have a better understanding of your business than we will. Tableau is a product company. Now, you've seen an application, if you will, built with Tableau today from real-world retail. But what we're saying is you're not really going to know the questions you want to ask of your data before you start. So why would we prescribe you a path or build you an application and try and, if you will, dictate to you the way that you should answer those questions and gain intelligence? Tableau is different. Tableau allows you to ask the questions that you wish as they occur to you, as you iterate through. And when that questioning path becomes pertinent, and you've created maybe a dashboard or a report or a visualization that you think is pertinent to the business, then that's when you share that through Tableau Server. So I don't know how clear this was at the beginning of the presentation, but we have two products, Tableau Desktop for creating content, which you saw John using, and then Tableau Server for the consumption of that content. So that's kind of the way that Tableau works, and we deliver results very, very quickly. So we're not looking to boil the ocean straight away, and we are looking to give value very, very quickly. So what we can do is to let people get up and running, ask their own questions in a very immediate way, and remove some of the barriers that have led to the never-ending project that ultimately doesn't deliver the value that was hoped for at the beginning. We deliver value iterately and consistently and give people that data discovery and visualization experience at their fingertips. And I think that can dovetail very well into an overarching strategy which takes advantage of existing architectures and existing solutions, and Tableau will just add value to that and be complementary rather than some kind of rip and replace scenario. So that's what I would say in answer to that question. So John, Connell, over to you guys.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with you 100%, Ben, on you don't know what you want until you see what you have. You know, like a lot of our customers would be familiar with the traditional route of specify what you want and then basically get it written or whatever. Like what we find is like you're only getting maybe 50% of the value there. Like the way we work is like we start from the end result. We say, look, this is what we think is going to be happening. Then we'll go attach to our data. Then we explore, and like you know, as often as not, we'll get a surprise in there that something else is happening. But then, based on that, then basically that then will drive a series of actions, and you get a result way beyond like what like the retailer ever thought possible. And you know, like a lot of the stuff that we've done, particularly now on our pharmacy side, like it's breaking new ground all the time for the industry, because it's answering questions where people never even knew those questions. And that's where the data discovery is like so strong. But then like the presentation has to be perfect as well, because there's no point in, you have to be able to present the insight, otherwise basically no one's going to do anything about it, and you have to be able to give them the action in order to get it in order to get it delivered. And just the other point as well in like the cultural change, like we're with tier 2 and 3 retailers, so we would find that it's very important to be like engaged with the CEO. That's primarily who we're focused on, because generally they have like a shortage of data. They're waiting on people to give them information, and so with this, it's like extremely enlightening, and so they're seeing information they've never seen before. And then for the bigger retailers, like they're just seeing much more agility than they ever seen before. And it does take time. But basically, the visuals really kind of drive the whole thing. I have to say, you know, when you see a picture, you have to do something about it. Like, you know, if you can see the picture in 10 or 20 seconds, you have to do something about it.
Just the very last point, just in that transition from being a traditional retailer to a data-driven retailer, the tool Tableau is very agile, as Ben says, so you can be up and running very, very quickly with it. We take that even a step further. When we demonstrate our system to a retailer that's working the old way, we make it really easy for them to test the system. We basically just say to them, look, would you like to see this demo with your real live data? With very little time and work, we can actually come back to them and show them exactly where the payback is, which makes the decision of moving from being old world to new world. Thanks, that's it.
All right, thank you. That was a great end to this presentation. We're just at the top of the hour, or the end of the hour, so we'll just end by, again, referring everyone to the trial if you're interested in downloading Tableau and playing around with your own data yourself. We have the link for that up on the screen, as well as some more retail examples at tableausoftware.com/retail-analytics. Thank you so much to John and Connell from Real World Retail and our own Ben Tebbs, and to everyone that joined in today. We really appreciate your time. So we'll let you get on with your day and have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.